Hello, business building warrior. Welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio. We've got an all new podcast episode for you. Today, I'll be bringing on Robin Joy and Brian Olson. They're two great coaching leaders on our team around here. You hear them frequently if you've been on the show for a while. They are two great coaching directors for our coaching program. If you didn't know, we've got about 60 coaches on our team. These are all people who have built beautiful, successful businesses using the strategies that we teach around here. And they've freed up a little bit of their time each week to help you go further, faster. If you've got the margin in your life to really pursue e-commerce, you need a coach and we can help you out. Go to silentjimdotcom and get on our schedule for a conversation, a free consultation about your business, where you're at, where you're trying to go. We'd love to talk to you about all of this and see if some of our programs are a good fit, coaching courses, or just some of our free content. We'd love to chat with you. But Brian and Robin Joy, I'll bring them on in just a moment. They're doing this really cool series right now, the 7 competencies of being a successful Amazon seller in our programs, the 7 things that stand out. And they've already covered a couple of the territories already in previous episodes. You can scroll back a little bit in time and find those. We'll try to stick a link to those in the show notes as well. Easy enough to find them, though, at silentjim.com. They've already covered sourcing and shopping. Yes, those are 2 very different things, as we learned in those episodes. Finding good products, actually shopping and getting those products. Well, today they're going to start talking about prepping those products, which is a great next step in the process. What's involved? What do you mean prep your products? So they're going to spend some time diving into some details and specifics on the things we've learned, training thousands of people how to build businesses on Amazon. There's some great tips today that you're really going to enjoy. And on that note, we've also got a lot of content in our Proven Amazon course library that will apply to wherever you are right now. Now's a good time to remind you that if you're not yet a Proven Amazon course student, there's never been a better time than right now. It's only $39 a month to get a library of training that, if sold individually, has sold in the past for thousands of dollars, multiple thousands, probably 15 to 20,000 total dollars worth of content in there, especially when you start considering all of the events that we've captured and included in there. But wherever you are right now, maybe you're brand new and clueless and you've never sold online before, or you're starting to grow, step into some more advanced strategies. You need some tips and pointers on maybe your prep and ship, for example. We've got a great module in there that dives into all the details and the things that we've learned about prepping product if you do it yourself. If you're not using a prep center and paying someone else to do it, you want to do it yourself, we've got great training in there for you. Breaking it down, basically think of it this way. Wherever you are right now, we've got the content that you need to move you to that next stage. We'd love to teach you what you need next. Instead of teaching you all the things you might need someday, we teach you just the things you need next. We call it just-in-time education instead of just-in-case education, which tries to teach you everything before you even get started. We don't do that here. We teach you what you need to start earning while you learn, so you're growing, putting money in the bank each step of the way. And I love this series, back to the series of today's podcast episode that Brian and Robin Joy are doing, simply because it's that methodical breakdown of what are the steps involved? What are the things I need to know? We can't possibly teach you all there is to know on all the steps, but this is a great overview of the different core competencies involved in being a successful seller on Amazon. I'll let Brian and Robin Joy explain it with more detail. They also mentioned early in the episode an upcoming chance for you to gather with us live in Nashville in August. Go to provenamazoncourse.com/100. This is a very small group event. Just a few people will be allowed in the doors, and we'll seal it off because we want to give you individual attention, open your laptops, dive into your business, and teach you the strategies for finding 100 test-worthy, replenishable ASINs. We want to help you go from not knowing what you're doing to having a great, clear path forward. Actually, this is the mug from the event, a path to 100 ASIN workshop. Go to provenamazoncourse.com/100 to get details. And actually, if you're listening to this, I just held up a mug that Brian and Robin Joy sent me. On one side, it says, "Keep calm and test more ASINs." I love that. The other side is a little logo for their workshop. Great mug, great concept, great workshop. We've done it a couple times now with raving reviews, and you can see some of those reviews on the site. Again, provenamazoncourse.com/100, the 3 digits, 100. Go check it out. Join us in August if you can. We'd love to see you there. Well, I'm going to turn the show over to Brian and Robin Joy Olson. These guys are awesome. You're going to learn a lot today. Keep listening to our other episodes. If this is the first one that you've ever listened to, I want you to scroll back in time. Look for those interview episodes. We've had some tremendous interviews lately from students who are succeeding using the strategies we teach here. And those are my favorite episodes because it really validates and helps boost your confidence. The stuff we teach here simply works. Go meet the people who are doing it. All right, take it away, Brian, Robin, Joy. Appreciate you guys.
Welcome back to Silent Sales Machine Radio. We are your co-hosts. I'm Brian.
And I'm Robin Joy.
And this is Coach's Corner.
Hey, everybody. Have you ever felt like when you're trying to choose an ASIN to test, it's a little bit of an ambiguous process, a little uncertain whether you want to go or not?
Yeah, like maybe it has to be the second Tuesday of the first day of the month. You got to be standing on one leg, and the moon has to be in retrograde.
Yeah, don't forget you have to hold your mouth right.
And you got to hold your mouth right. Yeah.
Or sometimes it's Keepa's kind of overwhelming. There are so many data points and so many things that I think it's trying to tell me, but I don't quite understand, and I just can't pull the trigger.
I mean, there are so many data points in Keepa. It sometimes feels like a four-dimensional chessboard.
Sometimes.
Well, we host a 2-day workshop that will demystify the process of building a predictable, scalable, and sustainable book of business on Amazon.
It starts with a simple pre-flight inspection. This is an inspection of a listing so that you can tell whether you should really even be looking at that listing or not.
And if you get past that, we're going to show you how to apply 3 simple yes or no questions that are going to help you decide whether to pull the trigger or not. Like, is this even a good ASIN for me to test?
Right. And if you do decide to test, we can show you how to implement a 4-week framework. That's a 4-week testing process. This is clear and methodical, and it'll tell you whether you should replenish the ASIN or not.
Replenishable ASINs.
Yes.
Gotta love it. Well, what we do in these 2 days is we get down and dirty. Like we roll up our sleeves. We're going to practice how to apply these critical concepts together. Now, this is intense, it's focused, and it's packed with frameworks, quizzes, and actionable information that will stack the deck in your favor of finding your first 100 replenishable ASINs.
Or your next 100 replenishable ASINs.
Or your next, yes.
You'll leave with a roadmap to create your foundational book of business over the next few months.
Now, our next workshop is coming right up. It might be full by the time you hear this. It's August 16th and 17th, 30 days away from the time that we record this, probably weeks, 2 weeks away, 3 weeks away by the time you're hearing this. This is going to be in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah, on the 16th and 17th of August.
That's what I said.
Oh, you did? Well, that's what it's going to be. Uh-huh. Get in there and see if you can get in there, because seating is limited. And this is an intimate setting where you'll get to ask all your questions. Mm-hmm. Plus, you'll be able to hear from all the questions from the other attendees. And sometimes that's really as valuable as anything.
A lot of times more valuable. Now, this is a dynamic, fun, and educational experience where you will get to meet with and work with other people who are doing the exact same things that you are with similar goals.
Yeah.
And what we hear from previous attendees when they get back home after attending the workshop is that they feel transformed.
Yeah.
From feeling unsure to certain, like we were talking about in the beginning, from cautious to confident, and from overwhelmed to empowered.
Yeah, you mean they don't have to hold their mouth right anymore?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So if you'd like to feel that way, empowered, then go to provenamazoncourse.com/100. And we look forward to seeing you there because we are inspired by the accomplishments of others.
We're passionate about helping others reach their goals. We're committed to sharing the keys to success that have been shared with us.
All right, Robin, this week we are continuing on with the 7 Competencies series.
Yes.
Now, the truth is, there are probably way more than 7 competencies.
Sure, of course.
We've kind of broken down the whole Replens game into 7 main areas, and each of those areas has some competencies associated with them.
Right. So these are things that you have to do every week is kind of what we were going after. Things that you have to make sure that you're able to do yourself in the beginning, right?
Exactly. And I want to throw a disclaimer out there because we're 3
iterations,
the three versions, whatever, episodes into this particular concept.
Yep.
And I just want to make sure that this is not meant to be
All inclusive.
All inclusive. Yeah.
Right.
There are going to be things that fall outside of this.
Absolutely.
This is a high level.
Yes.
While we'd like to have a blueprint for exactly everything that we do in this business,
sure.
the reality is it's just not possible to have if this, then that sort of scenario for everything that comes up.
Well, part of the reason for that, I think, is because there's not really a right and wrong way to do a lot of these things. People kind of figure it out that what works for them, and that's usually different than what would work for me or you, and everybody's business looks a little different by the time they get it built, right? And that's what makes room for all of us.
And one of the reasons that everyone's business looks a little bit different, like my business would look different than yours if we had a separate business.
Absolutely.
Is because I bring different skills to the table than you do.
I know this because we play this tug of war all the time.
No, we don't. We're in perfect harmony.
Perfect
all the
harmony,
time.
as you can tell,
Yes.
always. Yes. All right. But there are certain things that kind of make us need to get some of these basics figured out.
Yeah.
Just about every business, at least when it's starting out, has some challenges. 3 governors is what you call them, right?
The 3 governors that exist in this business just to like get started, to get the ball rolling.
Keep you from getting started quickly and taking off fast.
They are time, money, and ASINs.
Yes.
So when we say a governor, we mean it's usually like a restriction point.
Yeah.
Right. And when we think about what we try and do is we solve for all of these governors at one point or another during your business.
Yeah.
As you're growing your business. Not
of course, you have
during
to.
Your business.
Yeah.
You have to. And so part of the 7 core competencies, almost every single one of those relates back to one of these governors at some point or another.
Yeah. In the beginning, we don't have a whole lot of time. A lot of us are working full-time jobs and elsewise. We have homes and families to take care of. We don't necessarily have a lot of money. That's why we want to build a business in the first place, right?
Right.
And we don't have any ASINs because we start out not even knowing what that is, right?
Yeah, usually that's the first governor that we run up against is I don't know how to find anything. I can't find anything. I don't have any test-worthy ASINs, and et cetera. So once we solve for that, then we start finding the other governors that exist, time, and then usually money. Usually money ends up being the long-term restriction or governor in the business.
Yeah. And if I could just say, going off script here, if I can just say one thing about ASINs being a governor, there's not really a governor for ASINs in and of themselves. There are over 1 billion ASINs in the U.S. platform, right? There are plenty of ASINs. Yeah. Where the governor comes in is where can I find sources that match those ASINs and which ones am I allowed to sell on that would be a good idea to test right now, and how many of them can I test? That's where we have to build our own book of ASINs that are ones that are viable because we have a source for them and we can sell on them and they're a good idea to sell on, like we were talking about in the workshop, pre-flight check, and they have a source. This is what you call bridging the gap, right? You have a good ASIN, a good source, you bridge the gap, then you decide if you're going to test it or not.
Exactly. Okay, so another word came to me. This is the third part in our 7-part series.
Are you going to make up a word?
Our third episode in the series. No,
I see. In the series. I see where you're going. Yes. You're still stuck
I was trying to find
the semantics.
The word was like buried back there and it finally escaped.
Okay. Do you feel better now?
I do, yes.
Okay, good.
So 7 core competencies of the Amazon Replens business. Now, we've already covered sourcing.
And shopping.
Let's
go through them all real quick so we remember where our series is. So we're going to go sourcing, shopping, prepping, shipping, pricing, replenishing, and business acumen. That's 7 core competencies that we're going to talk about in this series. We've already talked about sourcing and shopping. Today, we're going to talk about prepping, right?
Correct.
We took a minute to get there, though.
Yes, we did. And then we'll continue on. We have all this mapped out in advance, but shipping, repricing, replenishing, and business acumen. There's a lot here. There's more than just 7 core competencies. It's like there's 7 pillars with core competencies in each one.
Right. You might say
we misnamed it from the get-go, but it's catchy. 7 core competencies, right?
Yes. Let's see how it goes.
Well, here's the trick with
We're talking to smart people. They can figure that out, I think. Yeah.
And the challenging part, once you understand the governors that exist, or one of the challenges that can come up is that you and your partner together, you need to be good at least serviceable in all of these areas in the beginning.
Right.
Because you are the only one building the business.
Yep.
Right? You
Yep.
and your partner are the only ones building the business. It's great when you have a partner because that can really be helpful.
It can be really helpful. Not necessarily just in splitting the work up, but to have somebody to support you and help you. If you don't have a partner, I really recommend that you connect with somebody, stay in touch with the people that are available in the Facebook group, get a coach, a mentor, get in a mastermind. Like, don't try to do this alone.
So accountability is a big part of having a partner.
Yes.
And when you don't have a partner, then you need to hold yourself accountable, which can be challenging.
You know both sides of that, don't you?
I do, right? In the beginning, I had to implement a lot of discipline for myself in order to come home from work, go into the office for 3 or 4 hours a night to source, spend 4 to 6 hours on a weekend doing this as well. When I could be at that time, we had a relatively new grandson.
We did.
I could be out playing golf. I could be practicing the guitar. There are any number of different things that I would like to do. Trust me, when this business gets frustrating for any number of different reasons, you're like, I could think of a million things I'd rather do than this, right?
That's true. When I don't want to do something, I suddenly need to clean the house.
Yeah, suddenly your house is cleaner than it's ever been, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, anyway, so sometimes if you don't have a partner, that accountability can be challenging. But I did come across something recently, and here I'm going off script, that I think I've been implementing for myself just in the past few weeks, and I saw it. I don't remember where I saw it, so I can't attribute this to anyone or anything, even though I know I got it from somebody else. I just don't know where it was. Imagine what your 80-year-old self would be telling you right now if they were here with you.
Yes.
Okay, so if your 80-year-old self would be holding you accountable, like, don't you have better things to do than Candy Crush?
I don't want to eat cat food. Get something done here.
Right? Really? Really, Brian? Is this really what all you can do? The best that you could do 30 years ago? Really? That's the best you could do? So now all of a sudden I'm able to I find a little bit more motivation. I say not all of a sudden, but lately I've been using that tactic to find some more motivation.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to try that.
So if you need some accountability, maybe that's a way to think about it.
Okay.
All
right. So again, in the beginning, you got to kind of have the all around game. That's where we're going here.
We are getting to the competency, I promise. 15 minutes in, we're getting there. Okay. So this is the prepping competency. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Going to say something.
I'm going to say I'm going to get this started by saying something very profound that is really going to rock people. There is a course in PAC on that.
Oh, I'm shocked.
There are so many great courses in PAC. Don't overlook that. When you're looking to figure out how to do something, look in PAC. That's what that's available for. That I'm talking about the Proven Amazon course. If you don't have it, highly recommend it. Well worth the price. Go look into provenamazoncourse.com. But there is a course by Pablo Aguilar that's called Proven Pack and Ship. That's
Proven Prep and Ship.
Proven Prep and Ship. Yeah. Yes. It is really, really good and detailed and answers a whole lot of questions. So, definitely recommend that.
It is comprehensive.
Yes, it is.
It's a quite in-depth course, and all your prep and ship questions will be answered in there. That's the first
virtually.
Stop. Virtually. Yes.
Okay, so that's the first point. See there, I got us started.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Good. So when we're talking about prepping your items, like when we're doing replens, we have all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
We've got big things. We've got small things. We got in-between things. We have breakable things. We have things that we don't care if they're never going to break, right?
Right.
But sometimes we're unclear how we should prep something. So our first stop is always prep guidance, in quotes, in the Seller Central Help box. Will bring you up a great list of categories and types of products with guidance on how to prep them.
Do you have to put quotes on it?
No, you don't have to put quotes
on it. Sorry. I was confused because you were doing air quotes.
I got the fingers going all the time now.
In case somebody was listening and not watching. The air quotes were going on, but that's not important. What's important is if you go to Seller Central in your homepage, there is a search box. Right up there, very top, type prep guidance, and it will bring you to a help article that will give you a whole lot of information about prep guides.
And if you're a little bit slow on the uptake, like me sometimes, when you put that in there, it pops up a little sidebar and the article gets super long. When you're doing it. But then I found that there's like a little box with an arrow on it. If you click that, it will open that up in its own page, and then you can read it like it's a full sheet of paper as opposed to notes down the side of a piece of paper.
Good tip. Thank you.
Okay, good.
All right. Now, we also want to talk about the drop test. You might have heard that around the Facebook group, or some people that you've talked to have been in business for a while. Talk about the drop test. So that drop test, what is that, Brian? Help us out.
The drop test is basically, if you can imagine, if you've ever seen like people unloading UPS drivers or people who work loading or unloading trucks, and you see how they pick stuff up and they throw it like to the other end of the vehicle. That's kind of what the drop. They try not to do it in front of the customer, but we see it. They do. We see it happen all the time, right? The drop test is like if you can't take that item and however it's prepped and drop it from a height of 3 feet and hit a concrete floor and not break, then it is not prepped well enough.
Right. Here's what's going to happen. And you'll see complaints about this around the Facebook group too. But Amazon, when they ship it to the customer, we're talking about FBA. You've got it in FBA. Amazon's going to ship it to a customer. They may or may not use a poly mailer to send that to the...
Oh, hold on. Now you're stealing my other talking point.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. Go ahead.
No, we were just talking. I was just saying, like, it should be droppable.
It should be droppable.
Okay.
Yes.
And then second of all, if the other test that you want to do is take your item and put it in a padded envelope.
Yeah.
And imagine that that's the way Amazon's going to send it to the customer. And if you don't think that your item inside of a padded envelope would survive, in other words, if you've got 2 bags of cookies or whatever, or a bag of chips or a canning jar or something like that. If you can imagine, just give yourself the visual of sliding that right into a padded envelope and you know that it's not going to make it to the customer in good condition, then you should prep that item the way that it needs to get, the way it should be so that it gets to the customer in the condition that it needs to be. Yeah.
So know that you can use a box. You can use stretch wrap. You can use poly bag. You can use bubble wrap. These things are okay. And if they put it in if it's in a box that's shippable and they put it in a poly bag, then
you're okay.
Mailer, then you're okay.
Yeah.
So you're responsible though to make sure that gets all the way to Amazon and then to the customer without breaking.
We see this a lot. Like, why would Amazon do this?
Yeah.
Amazon is a service that just you have to pretend like it doesn't have that. It's not that smart sometimes, and so you need to give Amazon exactly what they need in order for you to be successful. And that is often prepping your items in the way that they need to get to the customer. So if it's breakable, make sure you get bubble wrap and put it in a box, right?
Yeah, that person doing that may not completely understand what's in there. It may not even occur to them that it needs to have something a little bit more sturdy. Yeah, do that right from the beginning.
Yeah, just package it the way that it should be shipped. Now, if it's okay for it to be shipped in a padded envelope, then
don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. You should be fine. Yeah.
All right. So, poly bags, have we gotten to there yet?
No, we're not there.
Oh, we're not there yet. Okay.
We need to talk about SKU and
FNSKU and UPC.
Okay. So, because this can be a little bit confusing too, and we're not cursing at you when we say FNSKU.
I had somebody to kickstart and say, at first I thought you were saying something bad, but that's the letters F and SKU is what we're talking about.
Right. So what's the difference between a SKU, an FNSKU, and a UPC?
Okay.
You want to tackle the first one?
Yeah. A SKU is, what's it stand for?
Like stock keeping unit?
Stock keeping unit. Yeah, I think that's right. Anyway, a SKU is for your benefit. Okay. That's how you're going to keep track of your inventory in your catalog. So when you first put an item into your catalog, it's going to give you the opportunity to put a SKU. That very first field is a SKU. That is a SKU that you can put some kind of coding in it or something to help you remember, what was the cost of it, where'd you buy it, something like that, anything that you want to in there. If you don't customize that SKU and leave it blank, Amazon will just put a random SKU in there for you. Doesn't make any difference to Amazon, whichever one you use.
And if you're using a third-party tool such as Inventory Lab or Boxed or any of those other tools, most of them, I think, give you the ability to customize your SKU as you're creating your items as well. And so I have seen, as a coach, I've seen SKUs that are like 28 characters long. And I'm like, what in the heck is that?
Yep.
Right. And don't worry about having to encode your SKU with information. Like nobody's really going to be able to figure that out because we all have our own.
Well, and the customer never sees that.
And the customer does never see it.
Customer never sees that number. Right. It does not go on the sticker. It doesn't go on the listing. The customer never sees that. So that's private to you. So you can say whatever you want in there, and Amazon doesn't care.
Right.
I think there's a character limit, but
there probably is a character limit. And for a long time, we did things like what was our buy cost, what was our fulfillment method, and what was our target sale price. That was kind of our SKU layout for a long time. And then we just it's just after a while you get too many SKUs and it doesn't really matter. I liked to have it that way because I could see what my target sale price was versus my actual sale price. And I could see, oh yeah, this is perfect because we made our target.
I think it's become less and less helpful for us. But
with more and more tools that are out there, like Seller Board, right? I can actually see almost in real time exactly how I'm performing by the minute.
Yeah.
From a profitability perspective, I can get a look at every single item that is selling, what it sold for, what my gross profit is. Okay,
so SKU is something that you can customize if you want to. Doesn't matter what you put in there. You don't have to customize it. So as Amazon will use a random number if you don't. And it is never seen by the customer. It's only seen by you. Okay?
Now, I guess we should have looked up what the FNSKU stands for. I'm sure SKU is similar, but I just don't know what FN is.
Yeah.
But this is essentially...
Everybody out there is going, it's da-da-da.
Yeah.
As soon as we get done here, we'll be going, oh, yeah, I know what that is. Anyway.
If you've ever seen the question where Amazon asks you, do you want to use the manufacturer barcode or do you want to use the Amazon barcode? FNSKU equals Amazon barcode.
Yeah.
So this is something that you do not get to choose for what it is. Amazon assigns it, and it is assigned on a per SKU basis.
Yes.
So in other words, if you have the same product and you put it in your inventory 3 times, it's going to have 3 different FNSKUs on it.
Yeah, that might be a little bit confusing. You can put it onto the same SKU as many times as you want.
The same, yes, but each...
You put a different listing in your catalog on it, it would have a different SKU. For instance, you have an FBA SKU, and then you would also have an FBM SKU because those are 2 different listings of the same ASIN.
Correct. But you can't have multiple FBA FNSKUs with the same SKU. You would also require a different SKU in that case.
Okay, I don't want to confuse anybody, so let's just keep it simple and state that the ASIN that we put in our inventory is assigned, when we put it in there, it's assigned an FNSKU, which is how Amazon knows that that's our inventory of that ASIN. Right? So that's how Amazon knows it's ours. And if we don't choose an Amazon barcode, what happens?
Then we're choosing the other option, which is manufacturer barcode. And with manufacturer barcodes, basically our items become commingled with everyone else's items who are also using manufacturer barcode. And then when a sale happens, Amazon still knows that it was you, but they go basically pick the item out of a bin, and it may or may not be the item that you sent in.
Yeah, they know that in that bin, 12 of those are yours. And so when somebody buys from you, they grab from that bin. But it wasn't necessarily prepped by you, so it may not get to the customer in good shape. It may have been the wrong thing that somebody accidentally sent in the wrong item. So it's a really good idea to use Amazon barcodes, except in certain situations.
If you manufacture your own product and you have your own manufacturer barcode, then
as long as you're the only one
selling it, then you can use the last option, manufacturer barcode, aka UPC, GTIN, EAN. They're all kind of the same thing.
If you do not understand what we're talking about, in the basics, use Amazon's barcode.
Yeah.
That's the basic, the fundamental.
And the whole reason that we're bringing this up is because when you package your item, that FNSKU, or so the FBA barcode or the Amazon barcode or the manufacturer barcode, needs to be scannable on the outside of your prepped item.
Yes, that's very important, that it's scannable. We know this. How do we know that? Ask us how we know this.
Well, we haven't even gotten to the scannable portion yet. I'm just saying it needs to be on the outside of the package so that Amazon they don't have to open it up.
Oh, yeah. So they know that that's your item and where it came from, what ACE and it goes with, right?
Right.
Okay.
Now, if you are also selling anything that has an expiration date,
which is not only groceries,
which is not only food, right? You'll find other items that we put on our body.
Sure. For one thing, pet food, but things that are topicals often have, but many different things have expiration dates. All food and pet food have expiration dates. So what about expiration dates? Well,
the expiration date needs to be visible by the Amazon system or person who is scanning that item as well. And so if you are selling items that have an expiration date, then when you print that FNSKU, you need to ensure that it has the expiration date on it, or you include another sticker that has the expiration date on it, or the expiration date is visible on the product that that Amazon is picking up.
Yes, exactly. Now, what those expiration dates are, it varies according to the product. I think there's a general rule of 105 days before expiration date. Is that right?
Yeah, it depends on the product. Like some of the snacks are less than that now, like 70 days or whatever.
Well, you know that little search code, and it's always being adjusted a little bit too. So keep an eye on that search box in Seller Central. Type in expiration code, and it will give you expiration date. Sorry, it will give you a table of what expiration dates, how far out they need to be in order to send them into FBA.
Now, have you ever come across a listing where it's asking for an expiration date and you're like, this product obviously doesn't expire. It's a mouse or it's a coffee cup or whatever.
I have.
Yeah. So what do you do with that?
I usually move on. So that can happen because someone created that listing and said, and when Amazon asked in the listing creation, does it have a shelf life? Does it have an expiration? They said yes. So from that point forward, Amazon will always ask for an expiration date. Well, there's no such expiration date on my coffee mug.
Right. So, and previously, like years ago, when you were creating a listing, there were much less details that were required around the expiration date thing. Like, is it expirable? Yes. And I think then you would have to enter the expiration date. Today, you can do other things like put a shelf life in it. There are multiple ways to set the expiration date. In fact, when we create listings that do have an expiration date, and we think we're doing it the right way, which is, yes, this item has an expiration date. You need to enter the expiration date when you put it in. We'll create the listing. Then Amazon will come around a couple of days later and say, you didn't set that up right. And they changed something about the way we set up the expiration date. So they've got some oversight on that these days compared to the old days where it was like a coffee cup with an expiration date.
So that's the other way an expiration date can get onto a listing, is when a listing is created and it needs an expiration date. Amazon, especially in certain categories, will always take a look and see, and then they'll adjust that and say, yes, they'll put that in there that it does need an expiration date. So a couple ways that can happen. Either way, expiration dates need to be included.
So I asked
when they're required.
When I was trying to set you up for the question earlier, and you answered the question that I didn't mean to ask.
Sorry.
Which is, what do you do when? Well, you put in the expiration date. But what if you don't own the listing? Right? What if it is a coffee cup and it asks for expiration date, and you're like, why is this? This obviously doesn't expire. Again,
would you open a case on that?
You can try to open a case on that and ask Amazon to say, hey, look, this is obviously an unexpirable item. And you may get the standard response, which is, unless you're the brand owner, you can't submit any changes.
You might, but you might not.
But you might also get it changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
but if not, how many ASINs are there, Brian?
this is exactly where I was going with this question, which is there are, over a billion
Over a
ASINs.
billion just in the US platform.
Just on the .com platform. So so move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are plenty of other ASINs. Don't mess around with the ones that are questionable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, this next point is one that I think we really want to drive home. At least I do. I hope you feel the same.
I do.
Which is, as you are growing your business and you begin to leverage contractors or other services, such as a prep center or a prep service, then you need to keep in mind that everything that prep center is doing for you, you are 100% responsible for. Okay. So if they are not prepping your items correctly, or if they are mislabeling your items, or if they are mixing up your items with somebody else's, you are still responsible for that.
Yes, you are. And this is very important to remember. Most of these prep centers, I think, have this figured out. But if something happens and Amazon comes to me, the answer of, well, my prep center did it is not going to fly. You are responsible. So keep that in mind. Get to know your prep center. And this is one of the reasons we recommend that you prep some shipments yourself before you use a prep center or hire someone to do it for you, because then you can have a better conversation with them and understand what they're talking about, help them in whatever issues that are coming up, that you both can be talking about the same thing. I think it's very important to try, if you can, to prep your own items at least 1 or 2 times.
The stories we could tell. Most recently, we went down and we're helping one of our prepper, shipper contractors. And a couple of things came to light on that. And they were, come to light. They were enlightening. Actually, we're like, oh gosh, didn't realize that. When we modified something slightly, or we added a new product, or we brought, a new test product in, and we're like, oh, didn't realize it was going to be like that. And so it's good to go do it every once in a while yourself if you can. It's good to do it in the beginning for sure to see what that whole process looks like. And it's good to go check on it every once in a while. And if all you can do is make a test buy of that item yourself or some of your items, that can often be a good quality assurance process, a quality check process, that you can follow to see if your stuff is being prepped right.
Yep. That's a great idea. Yeah, it's true. And you learn things that you can adjust. And a lot of the information you're going to get about that is, like you said, if you get complaints or you get people saying that, it was broken or whatever the situation, do a test buy. See what it looks like if you're using somebody else to prep it.
Or I know I sourced the right item and they're complaining that they only got 2 and it was a 3-pack.
Yeah.
Buy one.
Yeah.
See what happens.
See what happens. Yeah, it's a great idea. Okay, so
now let's get into what the actual competencies. We've talked about a number of things here, but the actual competencies, again, not exhaustive. These are pretty high level, but I think they're good enough to get you started. Number 1, make sure you know how to find and follow the prep guidance that Amazon provides for you.
Right. It's not deep stuff. It's high-level stuff, kind of mainstream, but good to know where that is and as a basic to know that, right?
Yep. Second one is make sure that your barcodes are scannable. I'm going to take a quick sidebar here.
Okay.
And this is the story I think you were going to
ask
earlier.
us how we know, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were sending in items and we got Amazon said, hey, you've got an inbound shipping problem where we can't scan your items. And we're like, oh, come on. We know the items.
Yeah.
We took the
automatic. Their gun wasn't working and we got slammed for it. Okay, we moved on.
And we're like, okay, fine, accept it, move on. And then the next shipment, the same thing happened.
And we're like,
And so then we send it to the person who is prepping those items. And we're like, hey, can you just double check these and make sure that they scan? Oh, well, I've been scanning them, I thought, every time I put them in the box. Well, what happened was we had changed one of the SKUs. And it came up with a new FNSKU on it that had a different line format on it. And by the way, that's super interesting how those lines came about.
Yeah.
You remember we were watching the Food That Built America, and it was actually the grocery stores, the grocers and the product manufacturers that got together to come up with the universal product code.
Yeah.
So it was easier for people to check out. So you didn't have to stand in line for 45 minutes to get your food and stuff checked out.
Brilliant.
Right? It is absolutely brilliant. Okay. So anyway. So the lines
you're
on
scanning
there,
the FNSKU codes.
we're scanning them, and come to find out one particular SKU was not scannable. FNSKU was not scannable. Well, why was that? It was because there were like 3 fat lines and they were all together and the gun didn't read it correctly, or they were just too close together. So we ended up having to just create a new SKU to get a new version of the barcode, and then it started scanning fine. But it's interesting how defensive we were, or, oh, that's not real. Come on, Amazon, get your stuff together. And then we realized, then we found out, that was us. It was a legit thing. Yeah.
But I want to point out, you said we just made another SKU. If there is inventory in FBA warehouse with that SKU, you can't change that SKU for the inventory you've already sent in. So that'll have to sell out.
That's just on the new ones.
Your new ones that you send in, you can use a new SKU.
Yeah, and Amazon did take care of that problem for us. I don't remember. I think if they relabeled it somehow and made it scannable, because we didn't have to recall anything, and we sold all of those that were in there. So
true.
Anyway,
Okay. So make sure follow prep guidance, scannable barcodes, and the next one is expiration dates when required.
Make sure that the expiration dates are visible on either on the packaging itself or on the label. One of the reasons we like to use the third-party tool that we're using today, Inventory Lab, is because it can combine the FNSKU and the expiration date on the same label.
Yes.
But it doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
You can print your expiration dates on a different set of labels, and then you'll just have 2 labels on the product if the expiration date is not visible
otherwise,
on the outside. Yeah.
Which brings us to poly bags. I get this question an awful lot.
Yeah.
Should I use a poly bag? When should I use a poly bag? My answer is, unless you shouldn't use a poly bag. It would be an exception for me not to use a poly bag.
Yeah, unless it's obvious that you shouldn't use a poly bag.
Right. When in doubt, use a poly bag. When not in doubt, use a poly bag. That's my that's what I think. Our shoppers and shippers have to ask special permission not to use a poly bag. Now, the reason for that is because this inventory is going to be sitting in a warehouse. It's going to be handled by people. It's going to get scraped and scraped, and I don't want it to get to the customer with dust on it. I don't want the customer to feel like it's been handled a lot. I want them to see some kind of protection. And the polybag does give some protection, not only in keeping it from getting scratched and stuff, but a little bit of protection from getting beat up too much as well. You can put stretch wrap inside the polybag. You can, for more protection, you can, and this is in the Pablo's Teaching Impact too. You can put bubble wrap inside the polybag, tape down your lids inside the polybag. You can always resize those polybags, cut them down, fold them over, put tape on them, whatever you need to do. But a polybag is a really, really good idea, in my opinion. I'm preaching polybags today.
Well, as long as we're preaching polybags, one of the things that we did, it was about a year in, I think, maybe a year and a half in, is we changed from poly bags to poly tubing with an impulse sealer. And so you can get the roll, basically, of tubing, and it comes in all these different sizes. And then you just, basically, it's made to order. You cut it yourself, you seal it yourself. It's just the right size. It's super easy. There was one product we sold for a long time. Well, I don't know that we sold for a long time, but for a while that was very big. There was no way it would ever fit into, they didn't make a poly bag big enough for that.
Right.
So we ended up having to stretch wrap it and tape it down and make sure that it was
I have been known to cut 2 poly bags apart and tape them back together.
Sure, yeah.
Let me tell you a little bit of a story I'm going to tell on Brian here. We live in Denver, and it's very, very dry here. So we may have had a different experience than some of you on the other side of the Mississippi. But we got poly bags when Brian first started, and then I came in. We had these poly bags where you tear off the strip, and then you fold them down. Those strips that we tore off, of course, we were doing 200 or 300 items per shipment a couple times a week at this time. And those strips were everywhere. And the static electricity, they were stuck to us. We'd go to work and we had these things all over us. Anyway, then you found, you were just about beside yourself with these things. Finally, you found some poly bags that are not, that the strips don't stick to you. Yeah. So there are options out there. If you guys are dealing with what we had to deal with.
If you live in a dry climate, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah. So there's a little story on Brian. I like to tell stories on Brian.
Okay, well, that is the prepping competency.
Yeah, hope that was helpful.
So the next part of the series, we're going to talk about the next competency, which is shipping.
Shipping, yeah. We got to ship it to an Amazon warehouse. And of course, we're talking about FBA. We're talking about Replens in general here.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about how to get it shipped to Amazon.
But first,
I've
got a quote for us tonight. Yes.
Do you?
Yes. This is one of my favorite quotes.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
One of my favorite people said this.
I know. So for as long as I've been in this community, we've had a member here. His name is John Larson. And I know he's been in the community a lot longer than I have.
Yeah.
But he often has a quote that he throws out there when someone's asking about how much money should I, what should my minimum profit level be? Or was this a good amount of profit or whatever? And I just love the quote that he puts out there. He must just have it like a shortcut. He just like right click, paste.
Yeah.
And the quote is this: all profit is good. Some profit is just more gooder than others.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm going to put that right up there with a Will Rogers style quote. Like, that just breaks it down and says it all, right? John does have a lot of sage advice in the Facebook group, and he's also often very helpful there. So,
well, and he often throws this quote out when people are like, "Well, this is only 22%, or this is only 14%, or whatever. Would you do it?" And John says, all profit is good. Some profit is just more gooder than others.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's true. I want to say also that we always have a mix of business. All of our business is not the best business. We all have a mix of business. So let it be a mix.
Right. We have some things that don't make money. We have some things that make a little bit of money, and we have some things that make
a ton of money.
The perfect amount of money, and some things that make more money than we thought.
Yeah.
Your book of business, when you get it built, is going to be like that as well.
On average, we make money with our book of business.
Exactly. So when your options are no profit or some profit, take the some profit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if it's the best thing you've found so far.
That's right. Well, you know what solves all these problems?
Go find some more ACEs.
Go find some more ACEs.
Test more ACEs.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch up with you soon.
We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, before we let you go, we've got a special segment that we do here once per week or so with our good friend Jeff Schick from jeffschick.com. He's a legal and policy expert for Amazon, Walmart, and all things e-commerce. And if you would like to get in touch with him, you can check out the link in the show notes. Jeff, thanks so much for being here today. What do you got for us?
All right. So what we're going to do is talking about best practices for having VAs and other people with access to the account. So one of the things we've been seeing with Section 3 supply chain audits with Amazon is that a lot of times they're asking for sellers to validate anybody who had access to their account. So they want to know who this person is and why. So like, for instance, sellers who have us going in doing reimbursements and account health management, they've been asking for copies of our engagement letter. Now, luckily for our clients, we use our own domain, jeffschick.com. So it's very easy to tie the Seller Central login to us because it's SC1 at jeffschick.com or SC5 or whatever it may be. And it's easy for Amazon to be like, okay, engagement letters from jeffschick.com, company's called Jeff Schick Legal, username is at jeffschick.com. All right, this all checks out. And so they can clear that red flag pretty quickly. But where things get a little bit more interesting is when sellers have VAs or prep centers that don't use domains and don't like business domains, I should say. So one of the big things that we're recommending for sellers is that anyone that has access to your account, you want to have two things in place. One is that you want to have an agreement with a signed agreement. DocuSigned is perfectly fine. It doesn't need to be paper signed. It doesn't need to be notarized or anything like that. But a DocuSigned agreement that says, this is who I'm giving access to. So I'm giving access to Jimmy Smith. Jimmy's email address that he's using to access my account is this email address. And this is the functions he'll be performing. Something very basic, but that it just explains why this person has access. And you should have that signed before you give them access. So if Amazon asks later on, it's not backdated. It's real. You can show the paper trail that it was actually signed by both parties and that it's legitimate. That also protects you against related account issues in the future too, because then you can show that this this is why you were related to some other account because of this one person.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other aspect I mentioned was domains. So if you're using a prep center, I'd strongly encourage you to make sure that their domain is like a professional business domain. So, XY, prep center login at prepcenter.com, or, like whatever their nomenclature is, but it should ideally tie back to like prepcenter.com. Now for VAs, that gets a little bit more interesting. I'm a huge advocate when it comes to VAs for having them on your own email server. And so there's two reasons why for that. One is that you have access to their inbox so that any purchases they've made, you've got access to. We've actually had sellers before where they terminated their VA and the VA changed the Gmail password. And then the seller didn't have access to the Gmail account and couldn't get the order confirmations that they needed or the order histories. And they couldn't log into the websites at, wherever they'd bought OA stuff from because that password was changed. Wow. So if they'd had their own email server, like for instance, our company on Amazon was called Pet Shampoo World. So we had petshampooworld.com. So if we'd had a VA, we could have had, Lewis at petshampooworld.com and had his inbox. So with all his order confirmations. The other aspect of it too is that now when we're giving Seller Central access, if we are granting it only to people within our domain, it makes it really easy to explain to Amazon, hey, this was an employee of ours. His email address was Lewis at petshampooworld.com. He was logged in, our company is Pet Shampoo World. You see that in our store name, so then for the Amazon person, it all checks out. And if you have that agreement signed too, that says, hi, this is Lewis. He's, a VA, he's doing sourcing. Here's his login to Seller Central. It all checks out so that in the future, they don't have any red flags. Where the red flags form is when sellers have, lewis.petshampooworld1@gmail.com. Mm-hmm. That starts to get a little bit wonky. And if Lewis got mad at me and changes that password, like I said, now we don't have access to lewis.petshampooworld@gmail. Mm-hmm. And that becomes even more problematic for all the data that's within it. So domains are pretty cheap this day and age. You can get one on GoDaddy for about $20 a year. Email hosting can be like $5 a month for Office 365 if you want the basic plan, or $12.50 a month per person for the more full featured, Microsoft Word and Office suites. Mm-hmm. I think it's just money well spent on the business to have that. So that way it just makes things cleaner with Amazon. So
sure. Yeah. I mean, if the extra $5 to $15 per month for an email address per person protects your account, then it's definitely worth doing that if it gives you a little bit extra layer of protection of, some documentation for Amazon there. So that's interesting. It's definitely something, especially with all the VA services and stuff that exist out there. What do you recommend that people do that are using VA services that maybe they don't have these agreements in place, or maybe the VAs that they're using are just using a Gmail? How do you recommend they reach out to the company to get that stuff from them now?
So I'd say if you're saying, oh my gosh, I'm not doing any of this stuff, it's never too late to start, because you can always start, today. When it's too late to start is when Amazon's got a problem. So like, for instance, we had a seller, she had a VA in Pakistan. She got suspended on Amazon. So she immediately let him go to save money. Well, now he won't communicate with her. And so the documents that we need from him to sign that prove that he was doing VA work and to prove why he was accessing her account, he doesn't want to respond back to, because he doesn't work for her anymore. Mm-hmm. So, and he's upset that she let him go with pretty much no notice because she was shut down by Amazon and she thought that was the best thing to do for her business. So that being said, I'd say the time to fix it is now, when you're not having a problem, because you could just simply say to your VA, hey, I just listened to this podcast. I'm going to change you onto the email address. Here's your new email address and login. Mm-hmm. Here's your new Seller Central login. We're going to discontinue your other Seller Central login at the end of this week. And I'd also appreciate if you can DocuSign this document that just shows that you work for me, so I've got something in my records. Boom. Easy to have. It's done. And that's it,
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's awesome. Well, I think that's something that is actionable for everybody that has a VA right now. Maybe start looking to get that domain, get them that email address, and get that document signed, because it's going to be a huge help. Just even just peace of mind that that you've got things done properly with your business. Yeah. So, Jeff, thanks so much for being here this week. Looking forward to next week, and we'll see you then.
Thank you. Appreciate it.